Hi all, a quick episode of This Week in Fantasy Rugby lined up today ahead of a massive weekend of rugby with Prem, the last round of URC League matches and a huge round of Super Rugby matches with the first set of the Fantasy Rugby Draft playoffs. So let's get stuck in. First up, a quick roundup of how my teams got on last week. We'll kick off this week with Prem. And it was a disastrous week on Super Brew for me. Red arrows everywhere, a few massive fails. Let's take a look at my team. So in the end, I didn't want to take any points hit, so I went without props last week. Not such a big problem. I mean, props generally don't score that well. But I made a few other errors. I mean, I took Tom Willis out because he was on the bench. Even off the bench, he made an impact. And I should have just kept him in, used my Sarries players elsewhere. I was expecting the Sarries backs to have an absolute field day against Newcastle, so I made Rotimi Shagan my captain. Didn't happen for him, 6.5 points and then 13 after the captain bonus. I was really tempted by Gonzalez. I didn't. If I brought him in, he got a hat-trick. He would have scored hugely. I had some players who did well. Tobias Elliott, 18.5. Gabby Ibitoy, 17 points. Fitz Harding, 17.5. Ben Earl, 21.5. Theo McFarlane, 17 points. Gabriel Ogre, 16. So I did have some good performers, but everyone else absolutely flew. And as a result, I've been plummeting down my leagues. I'm now 254th in the world in Prem Rugby, and in every single one of my leagues, I had a big red arrow. Taking a look at Dream XV Rugby, it was a slightly better week. I made Tom Willis my super sub, so big points there. 658.4 points in total. Good performers. Theo Dan, 35.9 points. Ben Earl, captain, 51.7. Juan Martin Gonzalez, 69.5 points. Billy Matter, 43.5. Josh Hodge had a stormer as well, 59.6. And Tobias Elliott on 44.5. So not bad at all. Now moving on to URC. It was a pretty average week for me on Super Brew. I ended up on 225 points, which was similar to a lot of other teams. So I've been pretty stable in my leagues, currently 212th in the world. Top performers, Sevelos and Natler on 18 points. Jamie Osborne with a huge 32.5 points. Shane Bolton, 19.5 points. Sasha Feinberg, Mgona Zulu, 16 points. I mean, he's done much better than that in recent weeks, but 16 points I guess is okay. Cameron Hannacum, 24.5 points, massive score. Evan Roos was my captain, 27 points, solid if unspectacular, and then Ruan Norchi with 15 points. So decent enough, 225 points. Could be worse, but I'm hoping for better this week. Super Rugby, and I got hit by dropouts and injuries this week. I had Joseph Suolihi in both my teams. I had Will Jordan in my official team. I had Carlo Tizzano, who was a late dropout in my Super Brew and official team. So that was pretty painful. As a result, it wasn't the best week. So looking at my Super Brew, again, more red arrows, just generally a tough week all around for me. I also had Tizzano set as my captain. So the captain passed on to Harry Potter, who only got 5 points, so 10 points after the captain bonus. Tom Wright was one of my top players. Bowden Barrett, solid 20-pointer from fly half. Hoskins to Tutu, 20.5 points. Tom Hooper, 14.5 points. And Marcel Renata did very well from prop with 15.5 points. Similar story really on the official game. Again, those injuries and dropouts really hit me hard. And with the official game, you don't have a subs bench with auto subs happening. So as a result, having Carlo Tizzano was a 0-pointer for me. I also had Joseph Suolihi on 7 points and Will Jordan on 1 point, both injured early on. Harry Potter was disappointing, 15 points. Players who stood out, Bowden Barrett, my captain, 90 points. Tom Wright, Hoskins to Tutu, Christian Leo, William, Ricky Riccatelli all did solidly with 30 plus points. The last word on Super Rugby goes to Fantasy Rugby Draft. This week, we have the first leg of the Championship semi-finals, and for an unfortunate few as well, the first leg of the Sacco finals too. I've had a mixed experience on Super Rugby, Fantasy Rugby Draft this season. In my 4 FRD leagues, I'm into the Championship in 2 of them, into the Sacco in 2 of them, and the one that I have a big eye on is the FRTV Legends. You may know FRTV, he's another fantasy rugby content creator. And I just so happen to be playing the man behind FRTV, Andrew Howard, in the Sacco semis of the FRTV Legends League. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big one. I will update next week how I get on in the first leg. Okay, on to this week. We have round 14 of Super Rugby, round 17 of the Premiership, and round 18 of URC. Kicking off with the Prem, there are two games that catch my eye this week from a fantasy perspective. First up, Gloucester taking on Newcastle. Newcastle's form has been shocking in recent weeks, and Gloucester have been scoring truckloads recently. This is a recipe for big points. I also like the look of Quins at home to Exeter. Exeter, despite gaining a win last week, are still not quite clicking, whilst Quins were hugely impressive last week and they could run riot at the Stoop. 5 players I got my eye on this week, starting off with Caden Murley, an impressive hat-trick and a huge 125 metres carried last week. He's got a great fixture and his form should definitely continue in round 17. Then we got Christian Wade. He needs to get some more tries to get closer to Chris Ashton's record, and he's up against the leakiest defence in the league. This is the one for him. Marcus Smith, he's got a great fixture and hopefully we'll see more attacking goals from Magic Marcus. Tom Willis, even off the bench, he dealt some serious damage last week. There's no stopping him and he should be back in the starting 15 this week. And then finally, Gabby Ibitoy, he continues to rack up the points week in, week out. One of the most consistent options in the game. On to Super Rugby, and I really have my eye on the Hurricanes this week. They're going to be fresh and firing against an inconsistent Highlanders team. So Hurricanes players are forming a strong part of my fantasy team this week. In terms of the 5 players I'm looking at, starting up with Ruben Love, he's likely to be on kicks, but he's also an all-round attacking talent who'll be breaking the line, getting assists, and maybe good even for a try. Then we got Ardy Surveyor. He's always consistent. He's got a tough game in round 14 against the Blues, but this is exactly the kind of game that he always delivers in. Next up, Balin Sullivan. He's out of position on the wing where he's set as a centre in both Super Brew and the official game. And so for me, he's an absolute must pick this week. Corey Toole, he's been in outstanding form in recent weeks with 7 tries in his last 6 matches. Form like that can't be ignored. He's an essential selection. And then finally, Cam Roygaard of the Hurricanes. He's a top scoring scrum half in the official game, top scoring scrum half in Super Brew, and top scoring scrum half in Fantasy Rugby Draft. He's got a great fixture. He's an absolute no-brainer at scrum half. Finally, URC and the final round of league matches. And again, there are some very appetizing looking matches from a fantasy perspective. The big 3 for me are the Bulls at home to the Dragons. I don't see anything but an absolute battering in favour of the Bulls here. Then we got Leinster at home to Glasgow. Leinster are starting to stick some very strong lineups out. Sorry, Glasgow, but I don't think this is going to be your day. Finally, I think the Stormers will follow last week's big home win with another home win, this time against Cardiff. 5 players I'm looking at this week: Sasha Feinberg, Mgun Zulu. Didn't quite hit his usual height last week, but he's still got a respectable score and his form has been insane. There are not many better options this week at fly half. Then I've got Cameron Hanekom. He came out flying last week for a 24.5 haul on Super Brew. He's firing and he's going to give that Dragons defence an absolutely torrid time. Jamie Osborne will probably be playing out of position in the back 3 again. He's so consistent and last week he pulled together a massive 32.5 score on Super Brew. He should have another big week lined up. Johan Grobbelaar, the inform hooker, he's in a great run of form currently. He did everything but score a try in round 17 and against the Dragons, this could be his week. Then finally, Josh van der Fleer, another massively informed player, carrying, tries and assists. He did it all in round 17. And if he's selected for round 18, then he can't be ignored. As always, more details are available over at fantasyrugbygeek.com. My round 14 Super Rugby tips are already live there, and my URC and Premiership tips will be going live on Friday. So that's it. Make sure you get your teams in, and good luck.